Something like 70% of our entire planet is covered by water. But have you ever stopped to think about who actually owns it? Who makes the rules out there on the high seas? Well, today we're going to dive into the incredible legal framework that governs nearly three-quarters of the globe. I mean, that's the big question, right? Who owns the ocean? It's a question that has literally sparked conflicts for centuries. Is it just open to anyone? Does it belong only to the nations with the biggest navies? As we're about to see, the world decided there had to be a better way. For a long, long time, the rule was basically might makes right. If your fleet was big enough, you made the rules. But that led to constant chaos and conflict. So the world's nations came together to try something different, to forge a new legal order. They created a single massive rulebook, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS for short. And it's not an exaggeration to call UNCLOS a constitution for the oceans. It really is. It's this incredibly detailed agreement that lays out the rights and the responsibilities for every single nation when it comes to using the world's waters. So, to really get a grip on this ocean constitution, let's take a little journey. We're going to start right at a country's coastline and move out, deeper and deeper into the open sea. And as we do, you'll see exactly how a nation's power and its rights change the further we get from the shore. Okay, first up, right off the coast, we've got what's called the territorial sea. Now, the key word you need to remember here is sovereignty. This isn't just water a country controls. Legally speaking, this water is the country. It's national territory. It's just, wet. So, how far out does this wet territory actually go? Well, the convention sets a clear limit. Every coastal state on the planet can claim a territorial sea up to 12 nautical miles from its coast. As we move a little further out, we hit the contiguous zone. The best way to think about this is like a security buffer. A country doesn't have total sovereignty here, but it can enforce its own specific laws to stop things like smuggling or illegal immigration before they actually reach its coastline. And this enforcement buffer, this contiguous zone, can extend up to 24 nautical miles from the coast. It gives nations a really crucial area to protect their borders. Now we get to the really big one, the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. This is a huge area, and the critical point here is that it's not about owning the water itself. It's all about having the exclusive rights to the natural resources in the water. All the fish, the oil, the natural gas, all of it. And the EEZ stretches out a massive 200 nautical miles from the coast. This is where you'll find most of the world's major fishing grounds and offshore oil platforms, which is exactly why these zones can be at the center of some pretty intense global disputes. So let's just make sure we've got this straight, because the difference is really important. Think of it this way. The territorial sea is like your house and your yard. You have full sovereignty, you make all the rules. The EEZ, on the other hand, is more like a community garden, where you and only you have the right to harvest all the vegetables. You don't own the garden itself, but all the resources in it are yours. Okay, so we've covered all the zones where nations have some form of control, stretching all the way out to 200 miles. But what about the massive oceans beyond that? Well, now we enter the high seas, what's basically a global commons. The convention's definition is actually super simple, but it's incredibly powerful. The high seas are, quite simply, all the international waters out there, open to every single nation for peaceful purposes. And this quote from the treaty itself is the legal bedrock of that whole idea. No country, no matter how powerful, can just go out, plant a flag, and claim a piece of the high seas. It belongs to all of us, and at the same time, to none of us. But look, this freedom is not a free-for-all. It's not the Wild West. UNCLOS clearly lays out specific rights, like the freedom of navigation for every single country. But it also includes crucial duties, like the shared responsibility for everyone to help combat piracy. It's a really careful balance of shared use and shared responsibility. And that brings us to what might be one of the most visionary, most forward-thinking ideas in all of international law. We've been talking about the water, right? But what about the actual ground, the floor of the deep ocean itself? This is it. The convention makes this revolutionary declaration. It says the deep seabed and all of its vast mineral resources are the common heritage of mankind. Just think about that phrase. It means these resources don't belong to the countries with the technology to get them. They belong to everyone. to all of humanity. So, this area, as it's officially called, has to be managed for the benefit of all of us. And the rules are very clear. Any financial benefits that come from, say, deep sea mining must be shared with the entire global community, with a special emphasis on helping developing nations. Of course, you can't just declare something a common heritage and then walk away. You need an organization to actually manage it. And that's where the International Seabed Authority, or ISA, comes in. It's a real, full-fledged organization. It's got an assembly where every country gets a vote, a council for the big decisions, and a secretariat to do the day-to-day work. Their whole job is to write the rulebook for things like deep-sea mining and make sure those benefits are shared fairly. All right, so having all these rules is great, but what happens when two countries just disagree? What happens when their claims overlap? Well, the convention was smart enough to build in a clear, peaceful system for sorting out these kinds of conflicts. And this right here is the foundation of that whole system. Every single country that signs this treaty makes a fundamental promise. We will resolve our disagreements over the ocean peacefully, not with force. And it's not just a vague promise. There's a clear playbook. Step 1 is always to talk it out, to negotiate. But if that doesn't work, the dispute automatically gets sent to a compulsory legal process. From there, countries can choose from different courts or tribunals, which guarantees there's always a path to a final, binding legal decision. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, I think the key takeaway is the incredible balancing act that UNCLOS pulls off. It carefully protects the sovereign rights of nations close to their own shores, while at the same time, it preserves the freedom of the high seas and that incredible idea of a shared heritage in the deep ocean for all of us. It is a truly remarkable legal achievement, there's no doubt about it, but it was created almost 40 years ago. And as our technology and our planet keep changing, with massive new challenges like deep-sea mining becoming a reality, climate change altering our oceans, and new autonomous ships on the horizon, the ultimate question remains, can this ocean constitution, written for a different era, really navigate the turbulent waters of the 21st century?